Hey, what's going on? Welcome back to the Bring the Sink podcast. I'm your host, The Hammer, and we got a good one for y'all. Now, I know what you're expecting. If you saw the title of this podcast, you'd probably think, yo, Hammer, what happened to the part two of the Dynasty franchise or Legacy franchises for the NFC? And I'm just going to be straight up with you guys. I'm going to keep it a buck. I really couldn't give a shit about that topic. I'm not even going to lie. I'm not going to mince any words. There's just... I think you could kind of hear it in my voice in the last episode. My last episode, in my opinion, was probably my worst episode of Bring the Sink history. And I just started doing it because I felt like I was forced to do it, and I wasn't doing it out of genuine love or excitement. And I was also extraordinarily tired from work and doing something. I don't ever want to record this podcast against my own will, because that is not fair to me, and that's not fair, more importantly, to you guys, the listeners, because you guys are the ones who deserve my best and Bring the Sink's best quality. So I'm going to continue to bring the energy, and I'm going to continue to talk about things that I want to talk about, and I am never again ever going to talk about something or be forced to record something against my will to the point where an episode of that quality comes out again. So maybe I will revisit that topic if I ever find some motivation to go back to that topic. But I don't know. I was making a lot of mistakes. I was also super tired, and it wasn't even like a physical tiredness. It was a mental kind of tiredness. Like my brain wasn't working. I missed out on a lot of players that I could have mentioned, like Joe Thomas for the Cleveland Browns, and the whole Cedric Benson thing for the Cincinnati Bengals, and Jamal Lewis apparently playing for the Cincinnati Bengals. Like, I was making way too many mistakes. I honestly am just thinking about deleting that episode in its entirety. But, maybe I'll just leave it up just as a reminder to myself to never let things get that bad, and to always make sure that I produce the highest quality episodes, that I bring you guys the highest quality of Bring the Sink and the Hammer that I can possibly bring you guys, with as much intensity and charisma and excitement that this show is meant to have. So without further ado, we're going to talk about something that I actually want to talk about. And what do I actually want to talk about? Well, let me tell you, I've been watching the World Cup over the last week or two, and it's been so much fun. I don't really watch a whole lot of soccer. The good leagues play at like 3 a.m, like England, the English Premier League and La Liga and everything. So I don't really get to watch a whole lot. I'll watch some highlights of the Premier League with my dad on YouTube every now and then. But for the most part, I don't sit there and watch like a full game. Maybe I'll catch like a Champions League final every now and then. It's not a yearly basis that I'm doing that either, but the World Cup, my goodness, I'm always dialed in on the World Cup, especially when I got my countries playing, man. And I got a total of 5 countries that I'm connected to right now. And obviously I have bigger rooting interests in some countries than others, but you're going to probably ask me, how is this connected to the NFL? Well, I'll tell you. So basically what we're going to do today in this episode is we're going to talk about NFL teams and their World Cup parallels. Which country and which NFL team resemble each other the most? And before I get into that, I'm going to tell you guys my 5 teams that I'm connected to right now. So obviously I was born in the United States. So United States is one of those teams. My dad's from Algeria, so I gotta rep Algeria. The Fennec Foxes, the Desert Foxes, gotta rep those guys. My mom's from Morocco, so I gotta rep Morocco, Team Morocco, Dima Maghrib. I always gotta do that too. I got my grandpa from France, so gotta rep France, gotta root for France. And then my lady, her family's from Mexico, so I gotta rep Mexico by association now. So I got 5 teams. 5 teams that I got rooting interest for. And honestly, out of the 48 that qualified, I have a 5 out of 48 chance of going home happy at the end of this tournament. Anyways, without further ado, I'm going to go into my parallels for NFL teams and their World Cup international, I guess, parallel. I don't mean to repeat myself so many times, but without further ado, let's get into it. So, the first country that I want to talk about is Italy. And Italy is funny because Italy didn't even qualify for this World Cup. They didn't even qualify for the last World Cup. And I'm pretty sure they didn't even qualify for the World Cup before that as well in 2018. So who in our right minds do we think is Italy? Well, I'm kind of tossing and turning over this, but I think I'm going to go with the Ravens because the Ravens, with all their talent and all their might, did not make the playoffs this last year. And this is just as of recently. I'm not talking historically speaking, but, the Ravens, and if you do want to take it the historical route, the Ravens did win a Super Bowl in 2000, and Italy also won a World Cup in 2006, so we could go the historical route. But for the most part, I'm going recency bias all the way because the Ravens didn't make the playoffs last year, even though they have a two-time MVP winning quarterback. They have Derrick Henry. They got a stacked team, just a football culture, just like how Italy also has a football culture. And yet, for some reason, they just can't figure it out at all. And it's taken them quite a long time to figure it out. And neither team has figured it out during this, Lamar Jackson era or so. So that's why I got the Ravens and Italy as my two parallels right then and there. This one is going to be, my next one is going to be quite obvious. And this is England. And I'm pretty sure if you know any soccer, you know what I'm about to say. England is the Dallas Cowboys all the way. Come on. It's the Dallas Cowboys all the way. Like, this is the easiest comparison of all time. I mean, England, every single year, this is our year, bring it home. It never comes home, Like, they won it a long time ago, and the Cowboys won it a long time ago. This is our year. It's the same story every year. It's never their year, It's not coming home. So, I don't really have to go into much explanation. They got Harry Kane. Other guys got Dak Prescott. They got some good players. Don't get me wrong. They got some good players, but every year, it's just the same old England or the same old Cowboys. So, moving on with France. France is interesting because I kind of tossed and turned over who to pick for France, couscous, but I ended up going with the Chiefs because France is one of those teams where it's like they're so dominant that you don't really want them to win, Like, even though I have like familial connection to them, I still would rather see an underdog win. And of course, in the NFL, I don't have any personal connection, but I'm just talking as of late, like, France has, Mbappe, this young kid who like hopped on the scene back in 2018, and he just started winning championships and World Cups immediately. And kind of the same thing with Mahomes. Mahomes came on the scene 2017, and he just started winning Super Bowl after Super Bowl, So I think that's kind of where my basis of thinking was going over there with France and the Chiefs. So, And then the next one is not so much a recent, but it's more of like the last like 20 or so years, historically speaking. The Patriots, I got to go with Argentina just because I hate both Argentina and the Patriots. I don't want either team to win. And they've also had some of the greatest, or like two of the greatest players ever in their respective sports with Lionel Messi and Tom Brady. So knowing that, it's like, that's kind of the best angle that I could approach the Patriots and Argentina. And now, with Drake May, it's like we kind of see the same thing again. But they made the Super Bowl this year, but I really don't expect them to make the Super Bowl next year. But who knows? We'll definitely see. Now the next team is a team that is one of my 5 teams. It's Morocco, and I got them comparatively so parallel to the Detroit Lions because they haven't won any like Super Bowls as of late, but they're really exciting to watch, man. The offense is good, the coaching is good, they play a little free, they don't play conservative at all. I love watching Morocco, and I love watching the Detroit Lions. These two teams are so much fun to watch. And, when they're on, they're spanking teams. And when they're off, it's like they're still in the game, but you know something's off, and you know that like they should be doing better than what they're doing. And like Morocco in the 2022 World Cup made it to the semifinal, and the Lions, not last year, but, in previous years, made it to the NFC Championship and the NFC Divisional round of the playoffs. So there's kind of some striking similarities there. Now with the next one I got is Brazil. And Brazil, this one was kind of tough because, there's not a whole lot of teams that really compared to Brazil. But I think I hit it right on the dot with the Pittsburgh Steelers, because Brazil has an incredible history when it comes to World Cups, and so do the Steelers. The Steelers have an incredible history when it comes to the NFL, and they always seem to be in the mix. They're always in the playoffs, and they're always in the World Cup tournament. But does anyone actually ever take them serious? Like, even this year, I don't really take Brazil serious. Like, they're definitely good. They're a good team. Do I expect them to win the World Cup this year? Absolutely not. They got a great player in Vinicius, but, and like, the Steelers have some great players too, but, these are just not teams that I expect to win the entire dance, But they have such an incredible, rich history, and they somehow always get their foot inside the door. So you got to kind of give them some credit where it's due, but at the same time, it's like, can you shit or get off the pot here, So, anyways, next I got the Buffalo Bills. And this one was also kind of a hard one because I could go the historic route and like a team that has lost like 4 World Cups in a row, but I don't think there was actually a team that lost 4 straight World Cups. But I mean, there is definitely teams who have lost a lot of World Cup games in the tournament, like either close to it or the final, But I think I had to pick Denmark for this, or the Netherlands for the Buffalo Bills, because it's like the best way I could describe it is they're really good. And people always tell you to watch out for them whenever they get to the dance. But once they get to the dance, they always fall somewhat short, whether that's in the semifinal, the quarterfinal, or in the final. They're always going to fall somewhat short. And it's almost as if like their franchise is cursed or something. So that's the best comparison that I can make between the Buffalo Bills and the Netherlands. Now, the next one I got is Atlanta Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons are really good on paper, and they should be winning a lot more games than they actually do. And another team that reminds me of that in this World Cup is Belgium. Belgium, really good on paper, but they should be winning games a lot more than they do. So I think this is kind of a perfect example. Is Falcons, Belgium, both really good on paper, kind of fall short where it actually counts, and that's why they play the games. Next one is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now this one is kind of a little niche, but I kind of compared these guys to Switzerland, because although they may not ever be taken serious, unless there was that one year with Tom Brady, but that doesn't really count, they may not ever be like taken truly serious as a contender. But they got some scrappy players on that team, man. Like they got some guys on that team that are gonna fight till the 95th minute or till the 60th minute in the NFL. So that's why like they got Chaka, and then it reminds me. He reminds me a lot of Baker Mayfield, so that's why the first thing when I typed in the Buccaneers, I immediately just thought of Switzerland. Now, the United States, another team that I have personal connection to because I was born here. The United States is the Chicago Bears. They're culturally relevant. They're gonna keep their name relevant. They're gonna keep people talking about them. Do they ever actually win? Absolutely not. So, I know the Bears won that Super Bowl back in the 80s, but the 85 Bears, but the United States, they're looking really good this year, and so did the Bears. The Bears looked really good this year with Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams and all of them. So who knows? Maybe in a few years we'll actually see the Bears in the Super Bowl. But and also, who knows? Maybe we'll see United States make a semifinal in a World Cup. But this is a team where a lot of people like to talk about them, but do you really like to watch? Sure, I mean, it gets really good like public draw, but a lot of people kind of tend to hate watch them just for the satisfaction of seeing them lose. So that's why I got USA and the Bears there. Now the Eagles. This one was interesting. Hear me out. I don't. This is the one where I feel like 60% confident in. But like, let me articulate it real quick. So the Eagles I have as Germany. They are a very 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 dominant team. They don't always win it, but you know when they do or when they're on, they're really on. You know when they're healthy and they're well coached and they're on. Oh my goodness, watch out for them. They are gonna beat you by 50 points. You know, but if they're not on, you know they could just tie or lose in the quarterfinals or you know in the divisional round of the playoffs. So. You know, just watch out for the Eagles. Watch out for Germany. They're both contenders that are meant to be taken seriously 1,000%. But just know that there is a small percentage of them or in them, in that DNA, that could be a pretender, and that pretender could show up out of nowhere. You know, so just watch out for that. Now for Spain, I got my hometown Denver Broncos. You know, they won. They both won championships in the 2010 decade, with the 2010 World Cup going to Spain and 2015 Super Bowl going to Denver Broncos. They both have young stars with, you know, Bo Nix and Lamine Yamal. They both are looking really, really good. Like, you know, the Broncos, number 1 seed in the AFC last year. Spain is like number 3 odds to win it right now. It's either number 2 or number 1 odds to win it right now. I don't know. I'm not really a betting man, but Spain, you know, they're very, very good. They're very dangerous. They're a huge contender, but there's definitely a lot of question marks because of the lack of experience. So, kind of like Denver Broncos. Denver Broncos are a very young team, and there's definitely a lot of question marks regarding that lack of experience. But you know, the more experience that they get, the more dangerous that they get. So, moving on. Next, we got the New York Giants. New York Giants, I got as Mexico. I think that's actually a perfect example. You know, they're both really big markets for their respective sports. However, they're not always successful with their respective sports. But you know, when they're on, they're on. Like I said, so yeah, that's the best way I could articulate that. Now, the New York Giants in the same stadium. Hear me out. I think is Portugal, because does Portugal ever have a chance of winning the World Cup? No, I don't think so. They have had one of the greatest, if not the greatest, soccer player of all time, Cristiano Ronaldo. Just like how the Jets had one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, Aaron Rodgers, and still nobody really took them serious when they did get Aaron Rodgers. So I don't know. That's kind of the only really like real comparison that I could make. The Colts is interesting. I had to tie in all of my 5 teams. You know, I tied in Mexico, I tied in United States, I tied in Morocco, I tied in France. Now you're probably asking me, where does Algeria fit into this mix? Algeria is the Indianapolis Colts. They're really fun to watch, and they could technically beat anybody. They really could. However, are they going to beat anybody? Probably not. You know, they got some good players. They both got some good players. Both have some players that you might not have ever heard of. But if you didn't do your homework, you would probably pay. And they also have some international stars like Jonathan Taylor and Riyad Mahrez. So that's the best description that I could find for, or the best comparison I could find for Algeria. Because, you know, I had to tie in all 5 of my teams, as one usually does. And I'm not going to do all 32 NFL teams because... like, what am I going to do? Like, Uzbekistan with the Cardinals? Or, you know what I mean? So, yeah, it's like, moving on, we got the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, Cincinnati Bengals, I'm going to go with Colombia. And hear me out. You know, we got James Rodriguez, one of the best players in the world, at least when the World Cup actually happens. When he pops out, he reveals himself, he's still alive, and he always shows that. He's always amazing when World Cup time is. And that's kind of the same thing with Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow kind of lull you to sleep in the middle of the season. Week 7, Week 8, Week 9. It might throw 150 yards, 2 touchdowns, you know, something humble. Playoffs come around, Joe Burrow turns into a different man. The thing is, Joe Burrow isn't always healthy. And the other thing is Joe Burrow and the Bengals don't always make the playoffs. There's a lot of weaknesses on both that Colombian team as well as this Cincinnati Bengals team, and that's why I thought that was the perfect fit for each other. Here's where we kind of stretch a little bit. Sweden is the Chargers because they somehow always make it almost every single year, but yet everybody knows that they're not going to do anything. and they also wear blue and yellow just like the Chargers. They got some cool uniforms, so I got to give them that. Great players from both teams. You know, Justin Herbert, historically speaking, you had Zlatan with the Swedes, so that's why I think I actually articulated that a little better than I thought I was, but yeah, it's like they somehow always squeeze or weasel their way into every single tournament, but you just kind of know that they're going to be one of the first ones bounced out of that same tournament, you know. Moving on, we got Canada. And who could forget about Canada? And that's pretty much everybody. Everybody forgets about Canada. And who else does everybody forget about in the NFL? Is the Carolina Panthers. Carolina Panthers had a hell of a season last year. And nobody's talking about it. And honestly, I don't even blame them. Like, besides, you know, Dave Canales and Bryce Young, can you really name... I mean, Ted McMillan and everybody. Can you really name like 5 players on the Panthers right now? You know, it'll be. I'm sure people could, and I'm sure I could right now. But you know, it'll take some thinking. You know, and so that's why I feel like Canada. They're kind of in that same echelon where you know they're good, but they're very easily forgotten to the point where I don't think anybody could really sit there and name 5 Canadian players unless they sat there and thought really, really hard about who they were trying to name. Now, here's another one that's kind of a stretch, but I feel like if I articulate it properly, you guys will be on board. And that is Haiti. Haiti is the Las Vegas Raiders. Hear me out. So it just sounded so ridiculous when that came out of my mouth. I had to chuckle, but hear me out. Like they both play very, very, very physical games, especially like the Denver Broncos. I just know anytime I'm watching a Broncos Raiders game, it's gonna be very physical. The Broncos, God willing, will probably win, but it'll be very, very physical. And Haiti's kind of the same way. They're a bunch of Hulks back there. You know, they're so buff and they're so fast and they're so strong and they play very physical. But they're probably gonna lose. You know what I mean? That's just there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So that's the best way I could describe it. And then, you know, it's been a common theme to kind of crap on the Cardinals this year, or just in this history of Bring the Sink. So I had to include the Cardinals. Last but not least, but especially least, we got the Arizona Cardinals. And I just got to go with Qatar. You know, like, they're both bottom tier teams. They're both really bad. They both probably get spanked on a consistent basis. They might keep it close with Jacoby Brissett every now and then, and you know that's what we saw with Qatar versus Switzerland in that opening game with them drawing 1-1 miraculously. But for the most part, you know, you watch these teams play and it's like, why are these guys on the same field right now? This is disrespectful to the other team. So it's not a Bring the Sing podcast if I don't talk crap about the Cardinals. I don't know why I always keep throwing strays at the Cardinals. It's not like I hate them or anything, but I just kind of hate watching them. And even, you know, like, let me articulate this another way too. Remember when the Cardinals made the playoffs a few years ago with Kyler Murray and they got absolutely stomped by the Rams in Arizona? That's kind of the same way with Qatar. You know, Qatar, they somehow make this tournament and then they get immediately stomped in the group stage. That's literally word for word. That's the Arizona Cardinals right then and there. So, you know, shout out Qatar, shout out Arizona Cardinals, but you know, I had to mention that with my closing World Cup NFL parallel statement right there. I asked my friends if they had any questions for little ending section of Bring the Sink, little Q&A as you guys might be used to by now. And I had one question from my cousin. He said, "Did the Heat or the Bucks win the trade for Giannis Antetokounmpo?" And I'm not going to answer that because that's not an NFL-based question. And I know I just sat there and talked about soccer in the World Cup. So I just really couldn't give a shit about this Miami Heat, Milwaukee Bucks trade for Giannis Antetokounmpo. I don't think anybody's scared of either team now after the trade has happened. So do with that as you will. Now the next question comes from an anonymous. And he goes, What's the biggest argument that you've ever had about football? Now, this one is a good one, and frankly, I didn't really think about this question all day, so I'm gonna have to sit here and think about it for a little bit. But with the magic of editing, I will have my answer within the next few seconds for you guys. And my answer is, frankly, and this is actually there is no contest. I remember I was kind of a football degenerate when I was like 13 or 14 years old. I had Twitter on my phone. I was a high school freshman. I had Twitter on my phone. That was pretty much the only social media I was using, besides occasionally Instagram and occasionally Facebook. But Twitter, oh man, you guys should have been there. Twitter was popping back in the day. Like, it is definitely not the same these days, man. I'm not even blaming one figure or another, for like the rise or the fall of Twitter, but like Twitter back in the day, man, it was popping, and it was almost too popping, like to the point where like I would be nosing my phone for 4 hours arguing with strangers over football. And my Twitter was primarily based off of Broncos Twitter, like just the Denver Broncos in general. So at that point in time, Manning had just signed with the Broncos, and it was either his first or second year with the Broncos when he was tearing it up for us, and he was breaking all the records, and we were winning games, and I would get into constant, like, the rivalry, guys. Let me tell you, the rivalry between the Patriots and the Broncos fans back in the day, superb. It was unparalleled. Like, I can't imagine it even getting a fraction to what it was back in the day now with like Bo Nix versus Drake May. Like, I truly don't see that happening. I could be wrong, but I don't think it'll ever reach the levels of Peyton Manning versus Tom Brady. It was so toxic back in the day. It was one of the most toxic corners of the internet, was Broncos versus Patriot. You had people like doxing you, finding out where you lived, finding out your job just because you said Tom Brady was worse than Peyton Manning. Like, it was so toxic back in the day. And I used to, when I was like 13, 14, I used to get into these like Twitter finger spit matches with these guys over online, the total strangers online, just for hours and hours, just arguing, Peyton Manning or Tom Brady, and I was always on Team Peyton, and history has not always been so kind to me regarding that argument, but that's a take that I still hold to my grave to this day right now. Is like, I will sit there and I will never ever admit defeat on that football take. Like, Tom Brady had a perfect situation pretty much everywhere that he went, and like on those New England teams, especially with Bill Belichick and those top 10 defenses. Now, don't get me wrong, Tom Brady probably a little bit more clutch than Peyton Manning, but I will still take Peyton Manning as a quarterback, a better quarterback than Tom Brady every single day of the week. Like, the clutch factor is not the only thing when it comes to quarterbacks. Brady, I'm not saying he's bad. Brady, incredibly accurate. He was a monster. He had an amazing mindset. I would probably take Brady's mindset over Peyton's mindset, but Peyton's overall knowledge of the game and his prowess and his accuracy and just his work ethic to practice the same throw 1 billion times over and over and over. Like, I'll always take Peyton as my GOAT personally over Tom Brady. And I know it's not a popular take to have, but that's something that I set in stone when I was 13, 14, talking with these random strangers in the New England, Massachusetts area. That this is just something that I pretty much have to die with now. Brady got all the Super Bowls. I understand that, but I'm a firm believer. Peyton Manning goes to New England with Bill Belichick, those defenses, and those offensive coordinators, and Josh McDaniels and that system. I definitely think Peyton Manning wins just as many, if not more, Super Bowls. Uh, Imagining that he stays healthy. And regarding that whole injury thing, if you guys remember, I think it was 2008 or 2009. Tom Brady tore his was it Achilles or ACL? One of the two. He was out for the season. He tore it in like week 1 against the Chiefs. He and the Patriots ended up going 10-6 with Matt Castle back when they only used to play 16 games. Peyton Manning, when he missed that entire year, I think it was 2011 with that neck injury. Um, After going 13-3 the previous year, the Colts went 2-14. That was how much of an impact Peyton Manning had on that team. Um, you know, the Patriots the year before. Well, actually, was that the 16-0 year? The year before? I can't remember. But I mean, even if it was the 16-0 year, that's only a swing of six wins. And plus, like, if you're going 16-0, your quarterback is not the only man on the team doing that. You know what I mean? But yeah, when Peyton Manning goes down and you have a swing of 11 games, that's pretty much the entire season. So that's one take. Like, you feel free to disagree with me on this. I totally understand. I'm not even mad at you if you think Tom Brady's the GOAT. There's plenty of reasons that Tom Brady could be considered or is considered the GOAT. But that's just not an opinion that I hold. And I respect you if you do have that opinion. But at the end of the day, it's just an opinion. So, anyways, that's it for my FAQs. Thank you guys for listening to my little soapbox there at the end. I hope this was a much more pleasant and pleasurable experience listening to this episode versus that total horseshit that I released in the last episode. And I know it's been a little longer than usual for me to record these episodes or to record this specific episode, but I was like, under no circumstance am I going to record another episode where I'm feeling that tired, because I need to provide a good listening experience for you guys. I cannot record against my own will again and have you guys just listening just some total BS. It's not fair to you guys. It's your guys' time, and I want to respect that. So with that being said, I'm going to stop rambling. Thank you guys so much for listening to Bring the Sink. Please follow us on Facebook, or not Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, at Bring the Sink Pod. And if you truly, truly, truly want me to continue the legacy series that I was talking about from the previous episode, DM me on any of the social media sites, or if you know me personally, please text me or something. Or you can message me on YouTube, or comment on Apple Music, comment on Spotify or something, and ask me, and I will contemplate it, because I will think of the viewers. I will do things if you guys so request it, or we could just have a personal conversation off air about it, and then it'll be much more relaxed, and you can have more input there, and we can talk about that too. Either one works for me. Anyways, thank you guys so much. I'm your host, The Hammer. Peace.